Jay Dredd says, I hope DePaul turns up.
I'm sure most Argentina supporters would agree with that. I think the problem with Argentina is while they have been dominating possession, especially against Australia, I don't think they have a very good midfield when it comes to creativity. I think this is why they rely heavily on Lionel Messi, because they've got midfielders who are, for the most part, defensive midfielders or runners. Guys that will do the work, who will win the ball, but not guys that can pick or make that incisive pass that puts someone through. And so that's where they're looking to lean on the Messi. But if Pablo Gomez isn't scoring, if Lautaro Martinez isn't scoring, Julian Alvarez has scored a goal, but I wouldn't put too much faith in it, because he is sort of the understudy to Erling Haaland at Manchester City.
Interesting. Jay Dredd says, Di Maria has yet to convince me.
Oh, it's probably why he didn't play against Australia. He's a few years past his prime, and in previous, but you have to sort of pay tribute to Di Maria, because he is one of the reasons why they have won the Copa America. I think he has been a strong player for them in the past. This tournament, no, I don't think he's done anything to convince me either.
Now, before we get into the last matchup, I just want to ask you a question. Something I kind of saw interesting. I don't know, it could have been a bit of hype or clickbaity or whatever, but one of the officials after the Brazil-Korea game went up to Neymar, and I think there's some speculation that Neymar's injury seemed to heal very, very quickly, maybe suspiciously quickly. Is there anything that you've heard of, maybe any rumors, anything happening in the internet world that might make you lean towards possible speculation, reasoning why?
Well, I'm going to stay away from any conspiracy theories or speculation, so I'm going to have to say no comment on this one.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Okay, let's go to the final matchup on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, England versus France. France is looking really strong to me. England hasn't really impressed me. I didn't think they had much of a challenge in their group. But what do you say? What is your feelings for tomorrow, that game?
It's on paper you would think that maybe France would be a stronger side, but England have a lot of good players, and I think there is more solidarity among the English players than there are against the French. The French have already won the World Cup. They won the last World Cup, and I think there's a little bit of complacency there. I think there's a lot of ego, and England might take advantage of this.
Interesting. So what makes you think there's a bit of that going on in the French team?
Oh, well, because as I mentioned, the French have already won the World Cup, and you see a lot of comments that are being made by some of the French players. You see some of the behavior on the field and how they react to each other. It just does not seem that there is this unity that you would need to win a World Cup. So I don't think we can really rate a team based on individual ability, because while France does have a lot of superstars, you have to play well as a team because this is a team sport. And so I don't know if they have that core, because for me, the core of the French national team has always been N'Golo Kante. And I think a big reason why they were successful in the past is because of N'Golo Kante and Blaise Matuidi. Neither of them will be playing in the midfield for France this World Cup. So, it's. I do think France, on paper, have more talent than England, but it's. I think it's pretty close.
Kane not as scary this time around. Jay Dredd says, neither is Sterling, but Rashford exploding.
Yeah, Harry Kane is one of those players where he can have a bad start to the tournament and then have one match where he totally turns around, because that's the nature of strikers, is that sometimes all you need is that one goal to give you confidence, and then you can have a strong finish to a tournament. The same thing can be said for Sterling. But I agree with Jay Dredd that these guys are not as impressive as you would think they would be. And I think a big part of why, it's a tough match to call, because I do think France is the favorite, but I think that England is capable of I don't think it would be a huge upset if England won. But at the same time, I don't really care that much for England's tactics, because I think Gareth Southgate is overly defensive and negative. And I think this is going to be. I could be totally proven wrong, but I think this is going to be a very boring match, unless the French turn it on quick and they get some early goals. And if Jay Dredd is right and they can't stop Mbappe, then maybe we'll see an interesting match if England have to chase the game. But if the game lasts the first half scoreless, I think it'll be a really boring match. But with regards to stopping Mbappe, I think if he plays a back three and he has Kyle Walker as part of that back three, that would be interesting. I think that might be an interesting seeing Mbappe take on Kyle Walker and see if Walker can keep tabs with him on Mbappe. I agree with Jake that I don't think this is going to be a very interesting match. It's not a match that is really top of my agenda. I'm more interested in watching Portugal and Brazil and Argentina.
Now, before I close off the show, I just wanted to ask you one question. I never actually got your opinion. Who are you going for? Do you have a team that you're behind at all, or that you would like to see take this World Cup?
Well, of the teams that are still involved, I would love to see Morocco win, because I don't think anyone would think Morocco had a chance at the beginning of this tournament, and I want to see upsets. I'm tired of seeing, we see, what I think is really boring is seeing the same teams win over and over and over. We see it in the Champions League, we see it in the French League, we see it in the Bundesliga, we see it in La Liga, we see it in the Premier League, and we see it in the World Cup. We see the same teams over and over winning, and it gets boring. I want to see an upset. I want to see surprise, and for me, Morocco, of the teams still involved, Morocco would be the least likely to win. So I would love to see them. And yes, Morocco would be the first African team to win. And why not? Let's see something different for a change. Let's see an upset. I think seeing things that are unpredictable is what makes sports more interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be nice to see it. My gut feeling, though, is Portugal's looking really good to me, and Brazil is also looking really strong to me. If it's not Argentina, I agree, Morocco would be fun. I agree too, and I just go back to Argentina. It would be nice to see Messi holding that cup. Do you think Messi has any years left to make it to another World Cup if he doesn't get it this time around?
We saw a dip in his form his last couple of years with Barcelona, and now with Paris Saint-Germain. He's not, we did see some nice runs from him, though, against Australia. He did have a couple of nice runs where he got people off their seats, and so, every now and then he can still do it. But, as I understand, he's going to the MLS next season. So, it's difficult to say. You look at one of my favorite players from the MLS back in the 1990s, Carlos Valderrama, was playing in the MLS, and he was 38 when he played in his last World Cup. So you never know. Maybe Lionel Messi could still be part of Argentina's future.
So Jay Dredd says, buy your Miami tickets. So is that where he's going? He's going to Miami? Jay Dredd, can you confirm Lionel Messi is going to Miami? Well, this is the first I've heard personally. Have you heard anything about that, Eddie, him going to Miami?
I heard that he was going to the MLS, but I'm not sure which team.
Huh. Interesting. Now let me ask you this. I mean, we saw Canada make its first appearance in 30 years at this World Cup. And although I was rooting for them, you just can't build a team off of one guy. And they got a lot of work to do. Do you think the North American leagues will eventually be able to compete with the European leagues? Because, based on what I've been hearing from the industry standpoint, European leagues are looking towards American sports leagues for advice on how to commercialize without totally overly commercializing the sport. But with regards to just the sport, do you think they'd ever be able to get to a caliber or level within probably the next 5 years? Because to me, USA is still making itself known at the World Cup. They're not horrible. They're playing well, but they're just not a top contender. Could that change over time?
I think what is lacking in the MLS and what is lacking in this does not include Mexico, but Canada and the United States. What is lacking is the concept of promotion and relegation, as well as the pay-to-play ideology, which is the ideology that prevails in U.S. sports or U.S. soccer. Pay-to-play is a failure. You have to make football accessible to the poorest people in the United States, to poor kids from poor neighborhoods. You have to make it accessible. You can't expect parents to pay to send their children to a youth academy, because that is going to limit how many kids can enroll to learn to play soccer as a professional, and that is going to create an uncompetitive environment. And the same thing is true of the closed leagues, where you have franchise football or franchise soccer, and there is no concept of promotion or relegation, unlike Europe, Mexico, or South America. So this is what the United States needs to change if they want to be really competitive in soccer.
Okay, well, thanks again for coming on the stream tonight. Appreciate it.